launch of the annual Lithuanian Fintech Landscape Report. My name is Gintarė Bačiulienė. I am head of technology team at Invest Lithuania. I'm very excited to start this event, which will capture the advancement of the Lithuanian fintech sector and showcase the progress that's been made, fueled by the close cooperation of various institutions, among them Bank of Lithuania, Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Economy and Innovation. You will have a chance to hear directly from them in a couple of moments. We will also have representatives of several fintech companies based in Lithuania, that is Mambu, SME Finance and TransferGo, joining us for the panel discussion in the second part of the event. This event is of mixed format, and you will see that all of the audience is unfortunately online, as well as some of the speakers, while part of the speakers, as well as myself, are hosted at Fintech Hub Vilnius. Those who have registered for the event, you will receive the Fintech Landscape Report directly to your email. And if you haven't registered, don't worry, just stick till the end of the event. We'll share the QR code, which you can scan to download the report instantly. Also, you can check out Invest Lithuania Technology channel on LinkedIn for the newest updates and information relating to the report. So, without further ado, I'd like to introduce the first institution that has been instrumental in driving the fintech sector development in Lithuania, the Ministry of Finance. I would like to invite Gintarė Skaistė, the Minister of Finance, to say a welcome word.
Thank you, Gintarė, for the warm introduction, and thank you to Invest in Lithuania for the invitation. It is my pleasure to join all of you in this annual event. It is an excellent occasion to take stock of the fintech sector progress and achievements. Let me start by saying that the new government intends to promote further development of its innovative sector and foster cooperation among public institutions and private actors. 2020 was an unforgettable year in many ways. Many economic sectors suffered the damage of the pandemic. But this was not the case with the fintech. Against all odds, the sector continued growing. The potential of this dynamic sector to contribute to the transformation of the country's economy and financial sector was clear from the beginning. However, last year, numerous fintech companies stepped up even more by providing their services in times of need, from facilitating government's aid for SMEs to providing digital services for businesses. This showed us that financial technologies are leading the inevitable shift to a more digitalized world. And we need to embrace this shift by working together. Without this, we may not be able to address issues that companies are facing and implement comprehensive risk management policies, as well as ensure adequate consumer protection. We have a good track record in working together. After all, that is exactly how Lithuania has managed to establish itself as one of the leading fintech hubs in Europe and make the country a bright spot on the global fintech map. While market participants bring innovation, technology, and create quality jobs, it is the job of public authorities to create favorable structural conditions, from regulatory environment to taxation, and supplement the efforts of private actors. Today, let us take a step back and appreciate what has been achieved. Yet, already tomorrow, we need to continue our joint efforts and work on further enhancing the conditions for fintechs, while also making sure that we maintain the associated risks under control. And finally, let me thank all of you for the work that you are doing and for being a part of the vibrant Lithuanian fintech ecosystem. I wish all of you a fruitful event. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. Next, I would like to invite Jovita Neliupšienė, the Vice Minister of Economy and Innovation, to say a welcome word on behalf of the Ministry.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Gintarė, and thanks Invest Lithuania for organizing the event, and thank you everyone for joining it. And I'm honored to be a part of this vibrant community event because fintech sector in Lithuania demonstrated resilience through these difficult times of pandemics, and second year in the row was recognized among the leading global fintech hubs after US, UK, and Singapore. Lithuanian fintech hub keeps expanding, and not only in number of companies operating here, but also with job places created. Number of fintech successfully grew their teams in Lithuania. The sector creates high-value jobs, mainly engineering, product development, compliance, and the AML, as well as finance field. Fintech Lithuania presents increasingly more sophisticated business models and innovative solutions, and provides impulse of innovation to local university through the cooperation through Fintech University joint hubs. With an increased number of fintech in Lithuania, demand of support services such as legal, HR, accounting, etc., is also is increasing. Thus, the growth of the fintech sector has actually a multiplying effect on the economy as a whole, and I do believe that this is one of the most important achievements. Lithuania managed to become a leader in fintech due to several factors, but one of them was close cooperation and teamwork among their governmental institutions like Bank of Lithuania, Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Economy and Innovation. And I strongly believe that this will continue. Strong collaboration between government and all levels of ecosystem created a very helpful, vibrant and self-sustainable fintech landscape, and that ecosystem is providing to be the big success not only for the big companies but as well for the smaller ones. Wishing success for the event. I hope fintech sector will continue to grow, and daily cooperation between the private and public sector will ensure that growth. Thank you very much, and good luck.
Thank you very much, Vice Minister. Indeed, it is great to see the continued support for the fintech sector from both ministries. It is no less important to see the continuing support by the regulator, the Bank of Lithuania. So now I would like to invite Marius Jurgilas, board member at the Bank of Lithuania, to give his keynote on what's next for fintech in our jurisdiction.
Thank you, Gintarė. Probably a surprise, I will not be using slides, but I thought that we have something to share, and I think we are yet again having this fantastic event, and I'm happy to be on stage here. And I would like to do my keynote in 3 parts. I cannot acknowledge the situation where we are, and I'll be talking about this current situation and how does it affect our fintech sector. I also will be talking about the risks on the horizon and how we're going to manage those. And I will conclude with a future vision, how Bank of Lithuania sees not only this sector developing in Lithuania, in European Union, but how do we see it going on globally. So starting on the current situation, the ministers already referred to the COVID situation and the difficulties that it is creating for the broader economy, but probably not focusing on those things that are obvious and are affecting our economy on a negative side. I want to stress the positive side that this situation has created, and actually the opportunity that COVID situation has brought for fintech. And I will start from not so obvious ones, and we'll conclude with the obvious ones. And not the obvious one where we didn't know how it's going to play out at the beginning of spring last year, now almost a year ago, was the question of what's going to happen to the funding situation of all the startups and new firms entering the sector because of the increasing risks and the general uncertainty. There was a perception, and I shared that perception also, that there will be a cliff edge effect on the funding going into the sector. Completely wrong. That outcome did not materialize. And what we see right now in the financial markets broadly, and actually we see with the transactions taking place actually not so recent ago, even in Lithuania, we see exits, we see acquisitions. I'm not going to mention the names, probably you know what I'm referring to. And those transactions are being financed by the abundant liquidity that we have in the financial markets right now. That is, of course, not the outcome of this pandemic situation, but the outcome of the responses that, as well as fiscal institutions, as well as central banks like European Central Bank has done in response to the financial crisis. What did it create? It created this excessive liquidity that we see right now materializing not only in cash slushing around in the transaction accounts of commercial entities, but also in a very loose funding conditions for risky ventures. Probably not a household name in Lithuania or this part of the world, special purpose acquisition companies or the listing of a company without doing the proper IPO. You know, the thing that has been invented in the 80s now is on the top of the agenda of venture capital firms. You know, just doing a fund is not cool enough. You do a SPAC and, you know, do a pipe issue, and all of a sudden you have quite a significant revenue out of such a transaction. All of that is showing to us that the usual conditions that we have been experiencing before the pandemic are not there anymore. So the opportunity in terms of funding that is out there, and we already see that in another element, which is the inflation of the financial assets. We do not see general consumer price inflation, but again, we cannot miss what's happening in the crypto space, what is happening in real estate across the world. And all of that is just confirming what I just said, excessive liquidity. And that is an opportunity for this sector. Switching to the second element, what about the policy? Maybe we shifted away from allowing new firms to enter and compete with established firms or the incumbents. In the eyes of the pandemic, maybe there is a backlash to the new firms. No, quite the opposite. European Union stands firm, and fintech is on top of the agenda, as already acknowledged by the European fintech strategy, which is also complemented, and there is a part one referring very explicitly to the European payment strategy. And without going into the details, because I don't have enough time, you know, there is this guy next to me, digital euro. European Central Bank is actively working on potential proof of concept of digital euro if and when we decide to issue one. And already it has been in the public domain. There's a quite big political pressure to do it as fast as possible. We have to take it carefully. We don't have to rush ourselves. But if financial rails go onto the different measurement, you already know that these things can have quite significant repercussions to the whole financial system. And now switching to the risks. The main risk in fintech, or the main risk in the main vertical of fintech, which is payments, has been the discrepancy between the time the money leaves your account and the time the money is credited in the recipient's account, right? So the gap. And we apparently did not solve it yet fully. I'm going to say one thing that some of you obviously understand, but maybe some don't. This T+2, okay? It refers to the time when someone takes your money to implement your transaction, and actually when the money reaches someone's account, for example, for the security transaction. And in the meantime, something may happen. Usually, this couple days, nothing of significance would be taking place. But the situation we had with GameStop, the risks that a broker, Robinhood, experienced on its accounts in the span of a couple of days, realized in not so much, in a gap of 3.5 billion that the company needed to put down to continue operating. And that's the risk that fintech is having to address. These are the risks that we as supervisors will be paying a lot of attention going forward. And we have to understand how these new guys on the block who came into this scene promising to be super efficient, to net the transactions, limit the positions, do cheaper payments, how are they creating new risks? And these risks need to be managed. Having said that, are we changing the tack? Are we going away from innovations and putting a lot of emphasis on risks? No. We are just trying to solidify this sector and to ensure that those new guys on the block are not disrupting the system. And that's also true for the discussion that we are having on digital euro. Are central banks in general against the crypto asset movement? No. Actually, central bankers are quite smart people. They understand the benefits that this innovation can bring, or the savings or the efficiency gains that this can bring. But we also understand the risks. And that's why European Union as well, with its digital finance package, is not only embracing a new strategy for payments, but is also embracing a new legal regime for crypto assets, that they need to be managed, they need to be controlled, and there will be quite a few new regulated entities that deal in those assets. Now, moving on to the future. So how does the future look? I think it looks bright. And that's why Bank of Lithuania is still continuing along the 3 dimensions going forward for financial sector in general. And that also relates quite a lot to the fintech sector that we're talking about today. And I'm very much looking forward to the report on what has happened as of late. So first of all, the main objective of the Bank of Lithuania is to keep on creating value. And we have no intention to stop where we began. I'll just say one, Centralink, the solution for fintech companies to have direct settlement at central bank money. That has been one of the firsts. Right now, there are quite a few jurisdictions, even in European Union, where equivalent solutions are already in place. So a competitive advantage, not there anymore. What's next? There are quite a few other European currencies that there are no solutions for. So that's what I asked my colleagues to be working on multi-currency solutions to ensure that the problem that has not been solved, the problem of the correspondent banking, settling other currencies besides euro, should be resolved at the infrastructure level. But that will take time. So creating value is our #1 priority. Number 2, we're embracing the plan of our government to ensure that digital changes are not just being done in the financial sector, but they also are going through the whole economy. So Bank of Lithuania is also trying to move all of its processes onto digital rails. And finally, we also are in sync with the European Union's plan and the position of the next generation EU to ensure that financial sector is not only being used to facilitate private gains, but is also addressing the biggest problem of our generation, climate change. So sustainability is the third and maybe the most important objection in the medium term. I'll conclude here and very much looking forward to the report.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jurgilas. It is really great to hear the positive outlook and the bank's priority for solidifying the fintech sector in Lithuania. And I think it is great time now to actually reveal the key insights of the Lithuanian Fintech Landscape Report to see what has been achieved throughout the year. At the end of 2020, we took a snapshot of the industry and we surveyed the fintech companies in the ecosystem, and we're very excited to share the key insights with you. I would like to invite my colleague, Rugilė Stonytė, Senior Investment Advisor at Invest Lithuania, to provide the overview of the report.
Thank you, Gintarė, and good morning, everyone, Lithuania's fintech community, and all the fintech enthusiasts on the other side of the screens. I am Rugilė Stonytė, Senior Fintech Investment Advisor at Invest Lithuania, and one of the members of the big team that is behind the scenes of this fintech report that I will be presenting and sharing its key highlights with you today. Now, without a doubt, it will only be a small fraction of it, because this year's report is bigger than ever. It includes not only fintech sector statistics, survey findings, but also interviews with fintech sector participants, Bank of Lithuania, and many other interesting reads. Now, for those of you who have registered for this event, you will receive a copy of our report in your email boxes right after the event. And for those of you who haven't, you're able to download your digital copy at the end of the event using the QR code provided or going straight into Invest Lithuania's website. So without a notice, another year has passed, and here we are again at our annual FinTech Report launch event, where we celebrate our FinTech Hub's growth, analyze the trends, and discuss what's coming next. Thus, without further ado, I would like to present you the numbers that I believe many of you have been awaiting for. So despite being a turbulent and challenging year, in 2020, FinTech emerged as one of the survivors. And for the FinTech sector in Lithuania, it was a particularly successful year. A sector has grew by 10%, and now we count 230 FinTech companies established in Lithuania as of the end of 2020. Over 40 new participants has joined the market, replacing the ones that didn't succeed over the last year, and also adding to the count of the companies that already existed previously. Furthermore, second year in the row, Lithuania is recognized as one of the key fintech hubs globally after United States, UK, and Singapore, reinforcing our place on the map. And furthermore, Lithuania is now the largest fintech hub in the European Union by the number of fintech licenses issued. It's also worth to mention that 2020 was a successful year not only for the sector overall, but also for the individual companies, as 50% of our surveyed companies had their revenue growth at 30% or even more. Now, of course, there are many reasons why fintech companies decide to establish themselves in Lithuania. And we asked our market participants to name the most important ones. And here are the results. Fintech-friendly regulation infrastructure was named as one of the most important factors for choosing Lithuania over other jurisdictions to launch or expand their fintechs. Lithuania's ability to adapt to business needs and provide an environment where fintechs can flourish is valued by our companies. Lithuania is now ranked as 11th globally for doing business, and thus it doesn't come as a surprise that this is what is the second important factor for choosing Lithuania for our fintechs. It is followed by a talent pool availability, namely the less saturated market in hiring software engineers, compliance talent, operations talent than in many other countries. Personal relations also play an important role, and we are very happy that Lithuanian entrepreneurs and their contacts are choosing to develop their fintechs in Lithuania and not somewhere else. And finally, target client market is an important factor as well. Despite Lithuania being a small country, it's still a great market where new participants can easily get their customers, and the existing ones can successfully launch new products to a fintech adaptive society. Now, I guess many of you wonder who are those fintechs that through these difficult times managed to launch their businesses or open an office in a new location. Thus, we would like to warmly welcome to our community the newcomers of 2020. Mambu, Curve, Yapili, Demivolt, Ria, and many, many others. We really hope that Lithuania will justify your expectations and that you will be able to grow here successfully. Also, we predict and hope that next year, around the same time, we will be listing even more fintechs that discovered Lithuania. As the number of fintech companies in Lithuania is growing, so does the range of business models represented here. Although payments remain the largest segment of fintechs in Lithuania, its relative share has decreased over the last year. The segment that saw the largest growth was financial software, which is lending software, payment software, point of sales, and etc. We also saw that lending and digital banking activities were on the growth last year, especially as many of the new entrants represent these exact segments. Furthermore, we noticed that as fintechs mature, react to business needs, and expand their portfolios, some of them shift from pure payments into digital banking or even lending. Looking at other segments of fintechs in Lithuania, we saw growth in compliance management and cybersecurity, also in savings and investments, such as online investment management, online stockbroking, equity and risk, equity-based crowdfunding platforms, and P2P platforms. As for the geographics of fintech, statistics haven't changed much from the last year. 63% of fintechs in Lithuania are also headquartered here. 15% of fintechs in Lithuania, however, are foreign capital companies, which means that 48%, almost half of the community, is presented by the Lithuanian entrepreneurs. 13% of the market participants are headquartered in other EU locations. Now, this segment has shrunk quite dramatically from last year, as United Kingdom is now accounted for in another segment. And indeed, United Kingdom is companies that are headquartered in United Kingdom make up 11% of the market in Lithuania. And if it could be said like this, it's actually the largest fintech minority in Lithuania. It is followed by the Nordics that represent 8% of fintechs in Lithuania, and then 5% of fintechs in Lithuania are headquartered in the United States. Now, we are particularly happy to present you this next statistic, the number of people employed by the fintech sector in Lithuania. As the number of companies grew last year by 10%, the size of the teams was growing even faster. We witnessed a lot of companies that, reacting to the expanding business operations, were expanding their business teams very rapidly. And also newcomers that managed to ramp up their operations very quickly within a year and hire teams and grow the teams to as high as 40 employees. So with this growth, we see now that average fintech in Lithuania has over 17 employees on average. Lithuania's fintechs have rather multidisciplinary teams, and the scope of their operations is expanding. Looking at the functions that are most frequently hired by the fintechs in Lithuania, we see that 81% of fintechs have business development and sales teams working here in Lithuania. Those teams very often not only overlook expansion in Lithuania, but also expansion in Northern and Eastern Europe, or sometimes even the whole EU. 74% of the fintechs in Lithuania have the engineering and software development teams also based in Lithuania. Now, in 2020, we saw a big increasing demand for compliance and ML talent in Lithuania. And this is well reflected by the statistic that 71% of fintechs in Lithuania hire these functions. Furthermore, we asked our survey respondents to name their hiring plans for 2021. And we were very happy to find out that 97% of the fintechs that we surveyed are planning to expand their teams in Lithuania. And what's more, 27% of these fintechs are planning to hire at least 10 employees over the next year. So if these expectations and plans will be implemented, it is very likely that next year we will have 1,000 more of people employed by the fintech sector in Lithuania. Now, looking at fintechs in Lithuania, we see that diversity and inclusion is at the heart of the fintechs. And we were so happy and proud to find out that even 42% of surveyed companies have a women ratio in their teams in Lithuania between 40% to 60%. And what's even more important, that this level of representation goes to the highest levels of the companies, as 63% of surveyed companies have women at the executive level. Furthermore, 41% of fintechs in Lithuania hire international talent living in Lithuania and expats, creating their teams, making their teams diverse and versatile. Now, we already mentioned that Lithuania is now the largest fintech hub in Europe by the number of electronic money institution, payment institution, and special purpose bank licenses issued. As of the end of 2020, Bank of Lithuania has issued 118 licenses that are fully passportable across the EU and enable fintech companies to provide their services to the customers in 27 countries. Furthermore, many of you might already be aware of the Centralink, the payment system run by the Bank of Lithuania. So 2020 was extremely successful year for this system, as the number of participants have increased and also the value of transactions have increased. And during 2020, they more than doubled the value of total transactions comparing to 2019, making up almost 116 billion of euros. So this is a great achievement, and you can read more about Centralink and other achievements of Bank of Lithuania in our report. Now, we already established that 2020 was a very successful year for fintechs in Lithuania. But what about 2021? So we asked our survey respondents to name the main challenges and the main opportunities that they see for the next year. So it's naturally, as for most of the companies in this dynamic sector, that product development comes at the heart of their problems and the worries. And naturally, as companies are expanding, their international expansion and their product portfolio expansion is the next challenge that they face. Also, attracting suitable talent and also forging partnerships with established institutions is also one of the challenges that our fintech companies in Lithuania foresee. Now, with the challenges also comes an opportunities. And it's very interesting to see that the opportunities that fintechs mentioned this year for 2020 were very similar to the last year. So as before, our community believes that open banking hasn't really revealed all the possibilities that it has. And also it expects that instant payments and digital currencies will be on the growth next year. RegTech was also mentioned as one of the main opportunities next year. And what is interesting that when we asked our fintech companies in Lithuania to name a field where Lithuania could become a leader in, they also mentioned the RegTech. So we're not sure what 2021 will bring, but I am sure and hopeful that Lithuania's fintech sector will be expanding, that we will be welcoming more and more international brands to Lithuania, and our Lithuanian fintech companies will be able to expand globally, forge partnerships, and attract the funds. So I really hope you enjoyed the short summary and key highlights of our FinTech report. If you would like to find out more, do not hesitate to get your own free digital copy and delve into the reading. We would like to thank all of our partners for making this FinTech report happen. We put a lot of time, love, and care into this report, and we hope you will find it enjoyable and very insightful. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rugilė, for sharing a comprehensive overview of the Lithuanian fintech landscape. And we'll continue with further insights on how the fintechs are weathering the COVID challenges, how they're building partnerships within the ecosystem. And these topics, as well as the Lithuanian fintech map, will be presented to you by Šarūnė Smalakytė, head of Rockit Vilnius.
Hello, everyone. So, as Gintarė mentioned, my name is Šarūnė. I'm the head of Rockit, the key fintech hub for fintechs in Lithuania. And today, during Rugilė's presentation and Marius' presentation, we've heard deeper insights about how the ecosystem has flourished, what prosperity and new opportunities it will bring, as well what the new names joined our recent ecosystem. In my presentation today, I will talk more about the sector's resilience, about the situation that currently remains one of the hot topics in the industry and the whole economy itself. And we'll hear the first-hand experience from the companies. So to imagine better in the situation where we are today, it is nice to reflect on where we were last year at the same time, at the same day of this event, and take a look of how this event looked from the previous years. If we managed to squeeze around 150% in our lovely auditorium, and today we have here on the other side of the screens, nearly 500 viewers. So as we can see, the opportunities and challenges go aligned together with the situation. And it depends how companies and fintech sector manage to take the advantage of that. But before we move on with this topic, I would like to announce the annual FinTech map created by Rockit's team that gives us this visual opportunity to map the ecosystem, to see the growing community, as well welcome new players to this fastly evolving FinTech family. So let's take a look. So we hope that you enjoyed the newest edition of Lithuanian FinTech Map that already comes for the 4th year in a row. And not only did we create this FinTech Map, but as well established a database where you can find more information about those companies, get to know them better, and maybe choose some of them as potential partners for your future business opportunities. So you can download the map and browse through our database in the link provided on your screens, database.rockitvilnius.com. So let's move on with one of the most important topics of today. So how did the sector survive the COVID, the pandemic situation, and what it was, how did it felt from inside, from the company's perspective? That's why during the survey, we asked companies a very simple question. How did the COVID-19 was for you? And the responses that we've got were very interesting. Exactly 1/3 of the companies mentioned that this time was as a challenge to survive for the companies. As we say, the fintech was blooming during this period of time, but as well we have to look on this other side where companies really had to step down, think, focus, and prioritize their key activities. As well, we've seen some business models changing on the way. But on a happy note, we have 2/3 of the ecosystem participants that found the whole COVID situation as an opportunity for the businesses to grow. As well, this was an opportunity for them to grow not only as a company, but as founders themselves. And adaptation, response to the situation was very rapid, as already mentioned a couple of times. And we've seen new solutions, new partnerships, fastly evolving support for wider business community, as well partnerships with the government and new instruments created. And if we talk more about this opportunity angle and go deeper into what were the most prominent factors that companies found. So one of them comes without a big surprise. This is acceleration of digital projects. If we keep in mind how the whole situation made economy to digitalize faster, that meant new solutions and new services needed to be established, and fintech companies were ready to act now. Due to this, there was a massive increase of customers in both B2C and B2B sectors. Companies were trying to go online, even those businesses that were never present online before. In relation to increased number of customers, that comes revenue growth. And as we've already heard, that companies were actively hiring an average number of 17 employees per one fintech company. That brings great results. So team growth was also one of the highlights that companies saw, one of the prominent opportunities as well for the future. But when we talk about challenges and what was really difficult for the companies, for those who didn't manage to take the full advantage of the situation and maybe were not ready for the plan B right there when that happened, so that was reduced revenues. It comes with losing clients as well, having a lot of delayed payments, what made companies to overcome not one or two obstacles on their way. What else? So operational challenges, starting from a simple ones to reorganize the whole work and working from home, to travel restrictions, especially for international companies, not being able to establish businesses here in the manner that they were planned for 2020, as well, considering that hiring new people remotely was a real challenge for many. At the same time, if we look what companies were planning at the end of 2019, there were many product launch planned in the first half of the year, but due to the situation, they had to be postponed and priorities needed to be rearranged. So when we talk about most pandemic-proof fintech subsectors, how did we come up with this list? We compared the companies on the same subcategories that faced challenges and that had great opportunities, and the ones that really showed their strong muscles in the ecosystem and managed to survive and grow very, very fastly. That was payments, digital banking, and financial software. Let's go a little deeper and analyze some examples why this happened and why exactly these sectors. So if we look into the payments area and we compare data with 2019 and 2020 exactly at the same time, and we take one of the verticals, which in this case is the total amount of payment transactions initiated within 12 months during the third quarter of the year, we can see the growth in volumes, the growth in numbers, the growth of number of companies operating and providing their solutions. So what is interesting here? If we compare the numbers, and that was around 15 billion euros, euro transactions initiated in 2019, comparing to 2020, it's nearly 58% increase of the volume. But also there are other interesting facts here. So let's take a look at the graphs and what we can see. So the top 5 players shown, and we can see the change in the key players that's driving the ecosystem on this particular angle. So some of the leaders that were right there in 2019 are not present in 2020 anymore. And as well, there are a lot of companies that got their license during 2019 and started their operations with a full speed coming with the next year. And let's take a look at other segment. that practically doubled. And as we can see from this year as well, the payment sector is one of the most fastest growing in Lithuania, and we expect those numbers to rise even higher in the upcoming years. Another subsector that surprised everyone on a positive note was the one that had a pretty well balance of the companies that faced challenges and as well embraced opportunities. And here I'm talking about lending. The subsector that became from alternative to a key partner, especially for supporting the companies in the need that had most of the damage during the COVID situation, and that goes to SME financing. And if we compare the examples and numbers, here we have National State Development Agency in Vega, action support for the most affected businesses, where fintechs were one of the first ones to take the lead during the first COVID wave and start giving loans for small and medium enterprises. So what we can see here, out of 8 players, 4 of them were fintechs that issued loans of nearly 128 million. And in total amount, during a couple of months, they managed to provide over 205,000 loans. What makes nearly 60% of the total portfolio. So what mentioned in the beginning, from alternative financing, what usually was seen before, now it becomes the key player for providing this kind of support. And another great thing that is really worth to mention, and what really highlighted during this year's period, was new partnerships in the ecosystem. So there was a lot of action, a lot of new projects created. And let's see what are the areas where there are most of them. So if we look at the numbers, and if we look at the main strategic areas where it's most relevant for fintech companies to partner with one another, as from Rugilė's presentation, we see that compliance is one of the most rising topics, and as well it was a hot topic this year. So companies between fintechs were really much paying attention to compliance, identity authorization, digital onboarding, as well AML. And here we talk not only about the business partnerships, signed deals, but there were a lot of initiatives in the market. For example, both fintech associations in Lithuania have established their own AML centers within their hubs so that they have more support and boost for the AML sector. As well, what mattered for the companies during this year, it was smooth scalability and data processing. So companies were looking, and especially financial software companies were booming during this year, as they managed to ensure, provide a lot of automation, provide more data, and provide great scaling opportunities for other businesses. What also mattered for many fintechs, especially facing B2C clients, it was expanding the scope of services. So launching new products, updating other products, and partnering with other fintechs to provide more opportunities for their clientele was crucial. As well, what really mattered for the companies throughout the whole year, and we see this as one of the most rising topics as well, was cybersecurity. And if we look into the numbers about the partnerships, what were made during the year, we see that in both fintech partnerships and in fintech bank partnerships, very active participation on both ends. So that doesn't result and doesn't conclude this only 20 year only. It was a longer partnerships, longer deals established throughout the time, but luckily many of them were closed and succeeded to digitalize some of the bank services right in time when it was crucial. So here we can see that in Lithuania there are companies that are actively working either with fintechs or with banks or with both, and there are many companies that have 6 or more partners throughout the year. But we already discussed what matters for the fintechs to partner with other fintechs. But when it comes to fintech and borrowing partnerships, the question is, when are we going to start using more opportunities that are there? So from now, we already see that online payments, digital banking, financial software, one of the leading for bank and fintech partnerships. But as well, there are a lot of unexplored waters. For example, insurtech, wealth tech, that could be a great opportunities for upcoming fintechs. So here I would like to show you a great example, a real pulse from the companies, from the community that are here to give you the first-hand experience by themselves. So let's take a look at the short video.
Our fintech ecosystem is getting more and more mature.
Over the last few years, the fintech community in Lithuania has really flourished. More and more talented people are moving in, and why shouldn't they when brands like Revolut are setting up their home offices in Vilnius?
The fintech community in Lithuania is simply amazing. While being super fintech friendly, Lithuania happened to be a perfect place to start our company. It would have been very hard to achieve what we did if we were based in the US, which is our primary market. We feel honored to pay taxes here while serving stock traders all over the world.
Globally, it has been a very good year for fintechs and investments. Some of the investments did not even make the headlines. Anything below 100 million was lost in translation.
2020 was special. The pandemic has put much focus on stock trading, thus increasing our growth speed even more. Despite the stock market crash, stock trading has become a mainstream thing.
We saw our prominent fintechs such as TransferGo, OnDato, Kevin making significant and really important rounds in their journey, and also a significant exit of PaySalute team.
2020 was challenging, but it also opened new opportunities.
The challenge we had and the purpose of it made us to achieve what looked impossible. Just in a few weeks we have increased our capacity by 12 times, doubled the size of the team, and became able to process thousands of applications under a state scoring model.
We managed to launch or upgrade our products that helped customers to serve their own customers through mobile channels, through online channels, and adapt to this new reality.
The time is now to start a fintech in these economic circumstances in particular.
Why big international companies choose Lithuania? I guess the list of reasons can vary and very much depends from the situation. But in some case, it was mainly about efficient licensing process, innovative regulator with whom we could talk and get an advice and support, and definitely talent pool and teams that we could build here.
The pulse of fintech in Lithuania, I would say, resembles the one around the globe, whereas fintech is becoming more and more embedded into everything we do, into everyday tasks that we have. But most important, it's becoming seamless. We don't even notice where it is.
So this beautiful note and wrap-up of 2020, I would like to say a big thank you for joining us today, and we hope that the sector continues to flourish and we have more success stories to tell. And here I would like to give a word back to Gintarė that will lead us to the wonderful panel discussion that will give us even more insights about what's coming up. So Gintarė, thank you very much.
For sharing the how fintechs in Lithuania are weathering the challenges. And now we would like to invite you to join our panel. We have really great opportunity to see two of the panelists on the stage here today. So Jekaterina Govina, Executive Director of Financial Market Supervision Services at the Bank of Lithuania. Hello. and Mindaugas Mikalajūnas, CEO of SME Finance.
Hello.
We also have two panelists who are joining us online. That is Andrius Bagdonavičius, Managing Director of Vilnius Engineering Center at Mambu.
Nice to meet you.
And Daumantas Dvilinskas, co-founder and CEO at TransferGo. So hello all, it is great to see you in person and on the screen, and thank you for joining the panel. 2020 was by all means a challenging year, but as Rugilė and Šarūnė have concluded, that also provided quite a number of opportunities. So I would like to kick off discussion with the question about the future growth potential for Lithuania as a country. So we've already established Lithuania as a leader in payments and digital banking, and the survey participants indicated that RegTech and compliance, asset management and credit markets could be other areas of the growth for Lithuania. It would be great to hear your thoughts on those areas, and if, what could be the steps for Lithuania to take to actually become a leader in them. So perhaps starting with you, Jekaterina.
Yeah, women come first, yeah, probably. Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, just sitting here and watching these presentations that were made by Šarūnė and Rugilė, I thought that maybe it is time to introduce National Lithuanian Fintech Day already, because it is really a celebration, and each year we are counting new probably numbers, of new companies here who found Lithuania as their place to be and to do business from. And moving on to your question, 4 years were primarily about payments, and we have done a great job there. And looking forward, I think that we need to move to something probably new and expand opportunities of even payment companies to new areas. And for me, I think that wealth tech in general, investments and lending as well, alternative lending would be the area where companies could expand their businesses and find opportunities. Looking from perspective as a regulator and supervisor, of course, RegTech and SupTech is very close to my heart, and I think and I see a lot of opportunities there for companies to develop solutions about risk management, and especially in anti-money laundering area, because this risk, I think, is and will be in the nearest future as a main risk for companies to deal with, because it comes with huge compliance risk for non-behaving, so many more opportunities and solutions could be developed there. So maybe I will stop here and allow others.
Thank you, Jekaterina. And perhaps, Mindaugas, you have any thoughts on alternative lending or credit market or any other areas?
Yeah, of course. Good morning, everybody. From my side, what I see, where is inefficiency, there is opportunity. Mm-hmm. It's totally parallel. And we have digital banking, we have payments, development of almost 5 years, basically. And take into account these main things, I think Lithuania during couple of years will be like new Switzerland, where we will see more banks, neobanks, not traditional lending. And in these ecosystems, we will have more money flooding from the outside into Lithuania. So we will work like in both ways. We will be like specialized lenders, specialized e-payment institutions or providers, but together we will make like new ecosystem, like a marketplace, and into this ecosystem we will bring more money. So I think fintech will be like, it's like a first step, and it's an evolution of the fintech. And later stages we will see like integrations between the ecosystems, mm-hmm. and I think it will be like one step, and second step will be like consolidation of the mm-hmm. these specialized providers. So my point is this.
Great, thank you. So do you think that the banks will play a sort of perhaps bigger role in providing those alternative solutions in the future?
Not banks, but neobanks, I think.
But neobanks,
because traditional banks, they like old-fashioned, I think, and they have like cheap funding, traditional services, but nothing more. That untypical class customer, they want more. They want flexibility, fast decisions, cheap solutions, and only not traditional business models can do it. Because inertia and all the management system doesn't work in these models.
Great, thank you, Mindaugas. And Daumantas, switching over to you, we know that TransferGo is active in both UK and Lithuanian markets, and it would be really interesting to hear your thoughts, how the company is addressing the new challenges and, perhaps what the opportunities you see, from that division.
So even though we've been in payments for a while now, I think they're far from being done because majority of the customers are still with incumbent systems, trying to persevere, trying to make it work. So we still don't see that it's been that mainstream consumer is where we want to be. And for us last year, it was actually from business perspective, it was one of the best years we ever had. And the interesting thing is that lockdowns drove people out of cash, forced people out of cash into digital because they just couldn't physically go to their Western Union kiosk. But just imagine like how many people are still on that side of the market. And I think that's still the major opportunity in payments in general is digitization of those payments for the mainstream, because we live in two different bubbles. We live in a bubble of Vilnius where everyone is, contactless and London and whatnot, but that's not where the majority of the customers are today. So that's the first, I think, important point. Another important point is the challenge of correspondent banks. And in general, even though we've had new players who have improved the user experience for payments, the underlying infrastructure of how money moves globally hasn't changed. It's still up to several correspondent banks that actually make the shots, who plays and who doesn't play, who are even more powerful than some of the regulators, which is interesting setup. So until that changes, we will not see a breakthrough in how money fundamentally moves globally. And I think that, the Lithuanian National Bank have taken a lot of good steps in enabling new players with good compliance to become and be an even more integral part of all the clearing infrastructure. It's a bit boring. It's not fancy. It's not UX. It's not customers, but it's the underlying infrastructure that enables for, a better way to move money globally.
And do you see any challenges in sort of adapting to the UK versus EU processes and regulations?
End of last year was we activated the Lithuanian license. Now we're fully EMI. Uncertainty is the challenge, and even after the change, there's still not enough certainty how it's going to play out. We have extension periods for passporting, but we want this to end in one way or another. That would be best for everybody. Even if it's the worst case scenario, then we can sort of heal and come back. As this limbo is not helping anyone. For us, we have ensured business continuity across multiple geographies. We have also, with the help of EMI, e-money license, we have expanded our product range, which also helps. So we're trying to make the best of this very uncertain situation. But just certainty. So even the hard Brexit is probably better than this limbo. To be very open, because then you can figure out ways how to make this work. So I guess that's our view after these 3 or 4 years of back and forth.
Yeah, absolutely. Clarity is the key, especially in such a regulated sector. So thank you, Daumantas. I'll now switch over to Andrius, and just a question about your company's growth. And we know that you've achieved quite significant milestone, the status of unicorn, and it would be great to hear how, if that changed anything within your company, within your processes, or your view towards the global growth.
Yeah, thanks. So that's of course an absolutely fantastic achievement, I would say. And at the same time, we should recognize it probably as a consequence of the work we do, right? So it's not something it's not a miracle which just happens, right? And it's not like one day you open up and you are a unicorn, right? It's like continuous work. Even the funding round, it takes like 6-9 months before you close it. So little by little, we had this feeling and we had used to it before it was announced globally. So what it means for us, it means that we can have more funds to invest more, to accelerate towards our mission, right? To make banking better for billions of people around the world. And this is what we do, right? We are in the nice position to be. Mambu is a SaaS banking platform which is built to change. And what we need to continue to do is to change, right? We are entering the new geographies. We are entering and scaling due to the number of customers, due to the our customers grow itself, due to the more and more tier 1 banks are arriving to us. So what does it mean for the Mambuvian on the daily basis, right? You know, we would probably have to review the processes which we have today because we are like fastly growing company, right? So most probably some of our processes needs to be adjusted to enable us to scale even further, like any other big giants, tech giants in the world, we would probably have to refactor some of our code base, some of our architectural solutions, which again, to make sure that, you know, we are not limiting our growth by something which is built for us. And we also have a number of ambitions to develop new products, and we see a number of opportunities how in certain markets, some of the new functionalities or features would enable our business even more and will help our customers even more.
Great, thank you, Andris. I think, you know, we've touched upon the growth, and we could probably all agree that talent is crucial for growth. So I would like to switch discussion to finding, onboarding, and working with talent in these difficult times. So perhaps a question over to you, Daumantas. You know, again, you know, whether you see any challenges and any comparisons between the different markets that you operate in terms of that talent pipeline.
Yeah, well, when half of European fintech one day decided to come to Lithuania, so it made things quite interesting, I would say. And it's a very limited pool, even though we have talented young people. It is a limited pool, and what we've seen is that COVID reality and lockdowns has pushed us to be remote fully, or mostly remote, and that has enabled us to really build fully remote teams. So that's what we started doing, as you can only reallocate so many people to our beautiful Vilnius these days. So, and that seems to be working for us. And that was a leap that we took, but now we have first ever remote teams, and we have people across the world working on our products right now. So that's a solution that we apply, because Lithuania can never satisfy the demand from the talent perspective. So I guess challenging situations always enable people to adapt and find new ways to do things, and we have to find new ways.
Yeah, I do agree that we have to be innovative and, I suppose, keep adapting to the changing circumstances. And also, Mindaugas, perhaps also, what's your, you know, your experience in terms of perhaps scaling up to ensure that, you know, you can deal with the additional grants and the additional funding that you receive to help with the SMEs funding?
In general, when we're talking about funding, there is a lot of opportunities here in the Baltics, because it's market underserved, like SMEs market in general, but it's common practice or in general rule in all Europe. And what we can say, if we will have a funding, we will find the customer. It's simple as this. Our strategic goal is, you know, to prepare all ecosystem and our tech platform to scale up more rapidly. It's our ambition not only be like Baltic lender. So in near future you will see more good news, you know. And when we have like a roadmap to double our talent team, so I totally agree with Domantas here. It's tough because our solutions based on IT, on tech, and it's a bottleneck at the moment. And bottleneck in not only funding, not the customer, but to prepare tech infrastructure to scale up more quickly in the most efficient way your business model, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Probably the fight for the talent is universal across different markets and different cities. Companies face the same challenges. And Andrus, it would be great to hear your perhaps insights, whether you see any differences, between Vilnius, Berlin, London, other locations that you built up and have engineering teams.
Yeah, sure. So, I am heading the teams all around the globe. So, like I used to say, from Singapore to Miami. So, and it's really different, right? And even this COVID situation has affected how the talent is responding differently, not necessarily in different geographies, but also like in the same geography, like the same Vilnius, like a year ago, it was completely different than it is today, right? When probably it was exactly a year ago when I was hiring the first employees to Mambo Engineering Center in Vilnius, there was a big gap of uncertainty, right? And one of my suppliers called to me and said, look, Andrews, Macron is now prohibiting the borders and we cannot bring off the furniture to your office, right? So, and the furniture was about chairs, for the office. And I said, that's bad. He said, yeah, that's bad. You probably will not be able to have a seating places for your employees. And I thought, yeah, maybe I will not have a seating for the employees. But I would just remember a conversation and half an hour ago with one of the first employees who was also in this uncertain market and was also probably not willing to change. And then I thought, will I have employees at all, right? Maybe not having a chairs, it's not that a big deal, right? and that uncertain situation was in the labor market was completely different. For me, it was a huge challenge, with new brand in Lithuania to attract those first talent, especially, when there was a lot of uncertainty. Now, everything is settled, everything is more or less confident with the new reality. Everybody is used to new game of rules, and the market is moving, and it's completely different picture, right? Now we are a small family. Part of our culture is to connect, to have this social interaction physically, right? And we are curious and waiting for situation to change.
Great, thank you, Andrus. And just to wrap up on the talent theme, I would also like to ask Jekaterina about, if you see any progress in terms of the ML and compliance talent, how it has, the pool and the quality has grown over the years. Could you share your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I really just listening for the speakers. I thought that I hope that universities representatives and government representatives are listening to us as well, because I think there is a great niche for especially IT talents and AML again specialists, because the future will require more people to work in these areas. So of course it is a challenge right now for companies as we speak with them to find good specialists that could start from the day zero and operate all the AML area at the company to make sure that the company is free of risk. But some of the companies that settled their offices in Lithuania for some time ago, like Western Union, Danske, so they grew already these specialists who are quite of good quality, as I hear, and at least at this part the companies get the people they need for their business. But yeah, future will require much more of these sort of specialists.
Thank you. And I think, the recently established AML Center of Excellence will definitely add on to that sort of increasing of the quality and the prestige, I suppose, of these specific specialties that are needed for fintechs.
Yeah, I hope so, because one of the goals of AML Center will be to make sure that the competence of people working in AML area in Lithuanian financial companies, and not only maybe in financial companies, but at other companies who must to ensure that AML procedures are in place. So it should and it will, I hope, to contribute to this goal as well. Yeah.
Yeah, we're definitely looking forward to hearing more news about its further activities. So now I would like to sort of switch again the theme slightly from talent to innovation. And a question to Mindaugas on open banking to open finance. What are your thoughts on opening up consumer data to third parties? Is it more of the challenge or the opportunity? And it'd be interesting to hear your thoughts.
We totally agree it's opportunity to better evaluate the risk, because when you have lending products, it's not only about how to lend, but how to bring the money back, and and sharing the data with other providers in terms of risk assessment, client underwriting, monitoring, and the result of these three topics will be like better pricing even for the clients, because it's not like human will evaluate the risk. The machines will evaluate the risk with the help of open data. So AI is totally related things with this open banking and open data. So in near future, we will see more flexible, more quick solutions in this lending area. And yeah, and I think Lithuania, like hub, like a center, we will share with other countries how to manage this, because open banking in the Baltics quite advanced. When we're talking about other old European countries, we are like Mercedes here, really. Yeah, because we had like evaluated the integrations and RegTech in other countries. Yeah, they are old-fashioned. Yeah, they are old-fashioned. APIs doesn't work. We even don't know these APIs. So open banking, from our colleagues, Swedish colleagues, SEB, Swedbank, or Luminor, yeah, it will be like crucial things to get correct data, evaluate it, and package. And after that, our micro-lending companies will find like easiest way to finance their needs.
Great, thank you. And over to you, Daumantas. Would you share the same views? Would you have anything to add in terms of the open banking and its challenges and opportunities?
Yeah, open banking is a challenge, but I think it's also from a consumer perspective, because for years and years and years, banks told to the consumer, don't trust anyone with your data. And that, like they were telling that there is a good or bad FX rate, which is, there's no such thing, right? So you need to re-educate the customer in saying that it's within your own interest to trust third parties, because you're gonna get a best product available. And there is such an educational piece around that. And we've done multiple tests with open banking previously, and the challenge is that not even without the data, the customers just don't trust a third party to provide, because they're already trusting us. The leap to trust someone else with their data, which they're not sure of, is sort of a bit tricky. So I think there's that part of the market that also needs a bit of time and education from everybody. And I think that should be a collective effort from regulator to mainstream banks to new players as well, to try to push more people in trusting these new products. But it's definitely a way forward, not only from data side, from the payment side as well. It's just easier initiation of any payment, as currently everything is dominated by card schemes. And it's great, but card schemes have inherent problems with themselves, including cost and chargebacks and other problems. So we need to make sure that we address it holistically, not just giving the tool and they will take it, but it's going to be a bit longer term. At least that's what we see. needs to be good use cases. So if our colleagues make cheaper loans because people need, if people trust the data, that's a good motivator for people to give it a shot and be a bit more innovative in a market that has been historically quite risk averse on a mainstream.
Yeah, I think especially in light of the recent data breaches as well, I think consumers are definitely a little more concerned about the data and who are they trusting it with. So it's definitely one of those concerns that collectively we have to sort of build the environment that's actually enhancing that trust and building the structures around it to ensure that it is followed. Thank you, Daumantas. And over to Andrius on your product roadmap and your innovative SaaS-based banking platform. Are there any exciting things, innovative solutions that you're planning to bring to the market?
Yeah. So before I will share some of key or interesting milestones in our roadmap, I want to point out maybe the ideas, the composable banking ideas, and the flexibility which we very much advertise in the market. And maybe a good example of that was last year when due to COVID and the situation with quarantine, number of our customers had required some specific functionalities within their software, and we reacted to the market immediately. And sometimes within 2 or 3 weeks, new functionalities has arrived to all our customers around the world just to adjust to the reality. So there is a roadmap, but there is a reality, and we are very keen to follow that reality because we always following the market and trying to understand our need. So talking about interesting milestones going further, so I think a few of those might be our expansion, expansion to the new geographies, new regions, and this is very much associated and maybe very interesting for the techie guys. Mambu grew as a company together with AWS during the last 10 years, right? And only last year we started a journey to the multiple clouds. What does it mean for us from business perspective? It means an opportunities to have a business continuity across multiple cloud providers, to have new geographies, and new markets where AWS is not present, which means that we are working with GCP and Asia, and we are going to expand it even further. So technologically, this is an interesting feature and also a business opportunity for our customers, especially some markets where even sometimes regulatory has a requirement to have a business continuity across multiple cloud providers. On the technological level, it's an interesting channel for our platform engineers to rebuild all our components, so they are cloud agnostic, so they are interoperable between the multiple clouds, and this is where we are focusing a lot of our engineering effort to make sure that our capabilities works exactly the same, has the same performance, disaster recovery and resilience metrics across all cloud providers, and they are different, right? And this is what's the key engineering challenge which my teams is solving right now. And maybe the other one from business perspective, we are also very much working on something what we call a product factory, which is would enable us to scale even further from business functionalities perspective, our backend platform to have an unlimited capabilities to plug in even more financial products, which we don't have today, let's say it like that.
It's really exciting and interesting to see the development, and hopefully we'll see some really new product features that will come out in the upcoming year. Thank you, Andrius. Our time is coming to an end, but I would still like to pose last question to Jekaterina as we speak about innovation, and the Bank of Lithuania is recognized as one of the most innovative regulators globally. So perhaps just a few words in terms of what other innovations or innovative solutions, or perhaps some new processes that you're planning to implement or try out in the bank.
Yeah, there are plenty on the table, but if I try to squeeze everything in one sentence, for me, as for regulator and supervisor, the main goal would be to make sure that the trademark licensed in Lithuania would be a sign of good quality. Like when we speak about cars produced in Germany, it means that yeah, the car probably will last long. Or produced in Italy for shoes, it would mean that they are really fancy and again will last probably very long. So licensed in Lithuania, I want that world would see as a sign of good quality. That the company which is in Lithuania and operates from Lithuania, it means that it is a good quality of compliance and good quality of supervision. So innovations and all the digitalization and digital transformation that is taking place in our site will support this goal. So yeah.
That sounds amazing. Really, unfortunately, our time has come to an end, so I would like to thank the panelists. Thank you for joining us both in person and online. Thank you to all the speakers who joined in today. Also, a huge thank you to the companies and organizations that have supported and contributed to the Lithuanian FinTech Landscape Report. And as I mentioned, at the end of this event, you will see a QR code which you can use to download the report instantly. And this is it. Thank you very much for joining us at this event.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.